Hello everybody, welcome back to Just Lights. Since I've been pulling all the lights off the wall, cleaning them up, polishing them up, making some videos so I can share my lights with you guys, I figured since I had everything off the wall, except for those few over there I'm getting ready to take down, I'm going to go through and completely rework the entire wiring system that I use to power up my entire light display. The reason I want to make these changes is because the way I had it done before was a little on the frustrating side when I had to do repairs. So I got my power supply sitting right here that would run up to this little switchboard that I made, and in that switchboard had all my light switches. Now this one switchboard right here essentially ran all the lights across my entire back wall, but I was also limited to how many functions I could use and how many lights. So I want to have a switchboard right there, and I want to have a switchboard right here. That's going to allow me to add a few extra lights, plus it's going to allow me to be able to do more functions per each light. Now, one of the ways I want to upgrade this system and try to make it better is to use these terminal blocks right here and these ground strips that you normally see like that's inside of like a breaker box. What I want to do is I want to mount them up on the wall like right here, put one here, put one over there. What that's going to allow me to do is that's going to allow me to be able to put more bars because I'll have more switches to work with. So what it's going to do is it's going to go from my box right here. It's going to run all the way up to the terminal block, and those are going to stay fixed, stationary all the time, and I'm only going to run wires from the light bars to those. So let's go ahead and get this project started. So this is the power supplies I'm using right here. Now I have to put a picture up here of the sticker because it's really not readable anymore. I've had this thing for a few years now. It actually does really good. Now you're not going to run a lot of larger light bars on this thing right here. Like you might be able to run maybe 3 or 4 depending on what they are, especially the older ones that have a lot more motors and a lot more, say, the big halogen bulbs and stuff like that. It kind of overpowers it a little bit. The cooling fan will kick on and off pretty rapidly. But 2 or 3 bars, it'll handle that without a problem. You can pretty much pick these things up on eBay, Amazon, anywhere from about 30 to about 60 bucks, depending on the wattage you want or the manufacturer that's selling it. I just have it sitting up here, and then I take these little clips right here. I clip them onto these. This is my negative, my positive right there, and that's what runs to all my switches. The kit, when I got it, also came with this right here. So say you're testing like a little fireball or something like that, it has the original plug, you can test it right there. So it's actually a nice little thing. I'll put a link in the description for it. So let's go ahead and get to the wiring. Now what I'm using for all my wiring is the extension cords. I went to a yard sale and I came across 2 100 footers and 2 50-foot extension cords, and they were all 12 gauge, which is more than adequate to run these light bars. Now I ended up only paying $15 a piece for the 100-foot cords and $10 a piece for the 50-foot cords. The reason I decided to go this route is because each extension cord has 3 wires in there. So between the 4 extension cords, I end up with 300 feet worth of extension cord. Times that by 3, that's actually 900 feet total worth of wire that I can use for this project. To kind of put that in a little bit of a perspective on price range, that's essentially 900 feet worth of wire that I got for 50 bucks. You're not going to go anywhere and buy 900 feet worth of wire for that kind of price. 900 feet worth of wire does sound like a lot, but I'd rather have more than enough wire than not enough and have to stop my project just to go get more. Alright, so I got all the wires ran for the whole upper section, or at least for this half of the shop. The next step is I got to take a razor blade and start cutting all the sheeting back to expose those 3 little wires inside there so I can run them to my switches. Now my plan is to have one big ground wire right here. That ground wire is going to come up. It's going to go to all my negative blocks. And the other thing I have is this is going to be my positive block right here, because I'm going to have a bunch of wires that's going to have to go from there to the switches, and then from the switches to the wires. So it's just going to make it so much easier to have multiple areas I could do that versus trying to twist a bunch of wires together. Now as we come up here, you can kind of see where I got the wires ran. I got a positive block there and a negative block. Same with over here, I got a negative block, a positive, and I got a negative and a positive. And right here, that one is a full-time hot. What that's for is a lot of times when you have a Wellens bar, they have to have full power at all times in order to work. And then the positive would be just like your little signal wires. So I have this set up in that arrangement for that. And then I have another one way over there, another positive and negative block over there for that side. But I got half the shop done. I haven't even started on that half yet. So the next step is to kind of work on this right here, and then we can put the switches in. Now what I'm using for my switch is just regular household switches. I mean, realistically all they are is just a toggle-based style switch. Not to mention they're extremely cheap. You can go to Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, places like that, and you get the cheaper ones for about $1 a piece, maybe even just a pinch over $1 a piece. Okay, so all the switches are wired up. So I got all my wires going up. I got my positive thing for all my positive wires. I got my big ground right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close that, screw it off, and I'm going to use a test light, and I'm going to flip each switch on one at a time and test them to make sure that I have everything in order. I had to enroll the help of my wife to come out real quick. I figured it'd be easier for her just to flip the switches up and down while I hold the test light next to the terminal. So this way I didn't have to go up, down, and all that kind of stuff. Just made it much easier. Okay, so showing a little update on the wiring for my lights and everything. So obviously I got my positive blocks here, my negative block, and you see where I got all my wires ran for the lights. I try to run everything as nice and as neat as possible, zip tying everything together, not from light bar to light bar, but like say like right here where it has a positive and negative that are separated. I made sure those are zip tied together, so it makes it a little easier to track everything, and also makes it much easier if I got to work on something and things like that. But I also kind of figured that since I'm going through the process of taking all the bars down, cleaning them, polishing them, the whole 9 yards, I want to kind of protect them from the dust and all the paint oversprays and all that stuff that kind of float around my shop. So I went ahead and picked up a bunch of those little kind of those covers that you'll see like dry cleaners use, where they put them over top of your clothes after they're done to help protect them. I just picked that stuff up because they're pretty transparent. Other than the fact that you see all the wrinkles, you almost don't even know they're on there. But if you remember correctly, I do have a terminal block here and here, but now I got my light bar on the way. You're probably asking yourself, okay, well, you made a comment about trying to make it much easier to work on, but now you got that light bar on the way. How are you going to get to that stuff? I'm glad you asked that question. It's a very good question. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Okay, so the secret lies in these brackets right here that I'm in the process of building. I still got to sand them down and paint them and stuff like that, but these right here is what's going to allow me to get to those distribution blocks without unhooking everything. Let me show you how they're going to work. All right, so the way this is going to work out, I made some marks where they're going to go. So these will just slide underneath the light bar like that. The screw is just to help keep it from obviously falling off or anything like that. Once I got them brackets in place, then I just grab the light bar, drop it on top of the brackets. I made sure to leave the one for this bar long enough to where I can move it down without any problems. And you see that allows me to get to all my connections. And I'll be doing the exact same thing for the other side with my code 3. So this way everything's identical to what you see here. And then once I do my changes, whatever I'm going to be doing, just put the light back up, take the brackets off, we're done. All right, just an update on the wiring system that I have going on here. I've gotten started on the second side now, and I've completely reworked this entire side because I actually had 5 bars that were up on top of that shelf way up there that I wasn't able to have on display because I just didn't have the room for it. So I reworked it by doing a couple of beacons over here. I'll have one more right there. I was able to get all the rest of the bars right there, and then made a little small shelf right there for a lot of my small beacons and strobes and a couple little mini bars right there. I got my switches mounted right now. Then I got one set of terminal blocks there, another terminal block here, then another terminal block there. And then once all the lights and all that stuff are in there, you won't see any of those. This one right here, I'm just going to put a cover over it just to protect it. But that's where I'm at right now. And you see I got a few bars already started going up. So hopefully I'll have this done very shortly here. All right, so I got everything all finished. All the wires are in, all the switches are on, all the lights are up, everything's covered in plastic, protected. So I shouldn't have to worry about any kind of like oversprays and all that stuff anymore. But keep an eye out for the next video next week, which is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fire every one of these lights up for you one by one. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.